mulch. It's hard to find any material that is a one-stop shop solution for your garden. It retains moisture, feeds the soil microbiology, regulates soil temperatures, and it's just all around great for your garden. But what if you don't have a ready supply of wood chips or of hay? Well, slash mulch might be the solution for you. Now, wherever you live, you have weeds, all right? Weeds that'll pop up and grow with tremendous vigor. And in areas, with high enough rainfall and in much of the land across where I live, the United States, and across the world, we have weed trees and, vines and all sorts of plant material that we're constantly trying to cut back and cut back. And maybe there are things that compete with our crops or things that compete with our trees. But what if we could take that resource and turn it into our favor as an organic fertilizer? Right here we've got a gorgeous acre-sized pond, and you can't easily tell the topography, but this is a horse pasture at this location, and we have silt and sediment that's washed down, causing a very loose soil content that has allowed for a bunch of this vegetation. It's got water, it's got fertile soil, and it just grows up out the wazoo. And probably a week or two ago, we came down with a English American scythe and cut a huge swath through there and hauled that material away as fertilizer for a garden. And here is perfect. I mean, when you're slashing it and mulching it. So you're taking the slashed material and using it as mulch. Another term could be chop and drop. And here it's great because the nutrients that are in this soil are on their way to the pond. And so it's not all that useful for us. They could plant crops into this area. That would be great. And then we could mulch this area, but sometimes this area gets flooded too. So, you only have a select amount of crops. But harvesting this vegetation growing here is a great way to recover the nutrients and resources that are on their way off of the property below the dam and to bring them back into our useful function. But the difficulty here is that the nutrients have to be carried by wheelbarrow, in this case, all the way back to the garden. So what if we had solutions a little closer to home? All right, so right there we've got a garden for about 80 to 90% annual veg. And right here we've got mimosa, walnut, box elder. And these trees are actually great slash mulch, or chop and drop would be more the case because you're not really slashing the trees all that much. But food for our garden, all that biomass is great mulch. All you have to do to harvest this stuff is chop off all the branches. If you chop it off at the ground, you're gonna have all this growth, all this new growth is gonna be low. And so it's gonna form a bush. And you're gonna have difficulty walking around it and chopping it again, and it's just gonna be a hassle. But here's what I love to do. Cut it off around head height, and then all this growth is new, it's fresh. The size of these leaves, this is the box elder, and the leaves are massive compared to like the old tree where its leaves are small. This is all photosynthetic, strong new growth. And this is all 1 year too, here in south central Pennsylvania. And so what I can come and do, and you can see a bird obviously made its nest there, you can cut off the limbs there about halfway through the summer. And then again after it's gone dormant. And when you cut off all those limbs, you can take them over to your garden. So let me show you what I mean here with this mimosa tree. So just like that, in three, almost 4 minutes, I was able to harvest that mimosa matter and put it in a pile here. And I'll be able to take this now and go over to a garden, whether it's this one or some other trees that I've got, and slash mulch this stuff at the new location. And the tools for this can be very simple. All right, like down at the pond, like we showed, for weeds and herbaceous vegetation, a scythe can be great. My voice cracked a little bit there. A scythe can be great. And so in the workshop here, you know, we've got an English scythe, the big blade there. We've even got a little Japanese hand scythe. Get some lighting on that. But my favorite tools, because I do a lot of trees and shrubs, are just a pair of loppers, and for smaller stuff, a pair of hand pruners. And for some weeds, if they're really big, really herbaceous, like in this little area here, it's buried now. But we have some American pokeberry. I love pokeberry. It grows big, it grows leafy. And what I do is I just chop it off right there. And that'll allow it to regrow some. I mean, I'm not getting rid of it. I'm harvesting it. I'm managing it. That's what I'm doing with these trees. And this tree now, it'll have some time to regrow some greenery and then take that energy and store it again through the winter so that it comes back the next season. And so these trees, these plants are getting stronger every year, but I'm able to harvest the biomass. If I didn't want them here, if they truly are, by my definition, a weed, then I could cut them at the ground and keep coming back and cutting them, and then using that biomass still. I'm not just going to drop it there to fertilize the plant I'm trying to get rid of, but you can kind of abuse a system if you don't want it there and benefit the systems we do want there. All right, so I've done enough time talking. Let's get some actual visual on some slash mulch area. So here I got some of our mimosa branches. Let me flip this camera around and I'll show you guys what I'm dealing with. All right, boom. If you know what you're looking at, you're immediately going to notice some mimosas out front there by the wall that I did with the same pruning technique, and some over there. That's our garage next to our workshop. And in here, we got limbs, we got logs, we got leafy material, and it all goes back. So this area, it's not just the trees, right? We've got some junk there, but all sorts of vegetation grows up in there as the understory. So my wife and I, we came in and spent less than an hour, really, cleaned out the whole area next to the wall and dropped it here. And we've got a old lilac tree we're cutting back, resetting it so it'll have new growth. All of that came here. And so here with slash and mulch, you know, I've got a full long mimosa branch here. I'm gonna find a spot that's a little thinner. I've got like a cob stove, and I'm just seeing how the weather treats it over time. So here I've got a little goji berry bush just sitting here, waiting to grow. This is a very young system, so nothing huge. But I'm just gonna drop that mimosa branch there, and it'll wilt, and then it'll start to shade out all of the mulch beneath it, and it will feed the microorganisms that in turn feed my plants. And so here I've got some limbs, right? I can throw that right on top over it. And if it's a small plant, so right over this way, I've got them all flagged so I don't lose my little plants in the sea of green. I put in a little fig tree. He's a cute little guy. He's got a new bud that he's gonna be shooting up. And I was very delicate. You can see that I've got like some grass here and some yard weeds. This stuff was from my hand scythe, all right? I was very gentle on getting small material slash mulched to put around him. And then I can start with some of the larger material, but it's all chopped up. Well, okay, it's not all chopped up really fine, but like this, I cut. It's not a huge limb, but I needed it for a delicate position. And so I cut it up small and fine. Over here, I know where everything is. I've flagged it. Let's do a plant survey here. I've got a Russian hardy pomegranate, a tomato plant, and the tomato plant here is an annual, seasoning the soil For underneath it, we've got another goji berry. Both are Solanaceae plants in the same family, and they love the same type of soil. And so this guy is setting the stage for the next one to take over for future years. We've got a rosemary, ARP variety, rosemary. Another little fig trying to get established. I put him in a little too early. Like I said, we got our goji berry bush here. We've got another hardy pomegranate, and then we've got our other fig over there. So this is my warm climate area. I could plant things a lot denser than this, but right now this is what I had, so I put in these guys. And because there's a lot of space in between, I can go rough. You know, this stuff is pretty mashable, I guess. You know, this stuff is not chopped fine. These are whole branches. But it's also not visible from the road, which is, you know, past those buildings. And it all breaks down over time. As it dries out, I can come in and crinkle it. So that's a great example of slash mulch, you know, taking the available resources all around us. And it can be even times that you prune your own ornamentals or edible trees. If it's edible, when you prune it, just drop it by the base. Mash it down, chop it up until you're not going to trip over it, really. And it'll feed that plant. Here we've got an eastern redbud right by the house. These lower branches are going to be in the way of whoever comes by with a lawnmower. And so these lower branches will be taken out. Where will they go? Will I put them in a trash can and send them to the dump? Of course not. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop them up. Let me flip this camera around again. And they're going to go right here next to or right in our doorway garden. You know, here we've got all sorts of perennial and a couple annual plants. But the important thing is here, look, it's still green. We've got some fresh mulch from some young mulberries we were trying to get rid of in an area next to like the well. We've got some grass clipping, well, not grass clippings from a lawnmower, but cut grass from scythe. And once this stuff starts to age, you'll notice we've got really decaying material. I think this was, this used to be some chicory, but that's breaking down, feeding our soil. Underneath that, we've got mulch, and we've got the white color of mycorrhizal fungi and decomposition fungi in the soil that are feeding our plants and chewing up all of this organic material. All right, so I'm here by my Concord grapevine in full fruit, actually. Great place to wrap this up. Look, underneath, more slash mulch. These are all a whole bunch of like walnut limbs and leaves and everything that we just pile up here at the base to feed our grapevine. So slash mulch is a great option. You know, we all have vegetative matter that we're cutting, whether it's prunings or whether it's just weeding. And so why not use this, you know, photosynthetically charged super material in our gardens? All right, and as a food source for our plants and subsequently for us. And so manage your system. Find out what tools you're going to need for what plants you're managing as your source of fertilizer and add it to your gardens. And one question we're going to answer here is, if I have mulch, you know, so you're saying, Frenchie, you know, I've got this plant material and I cut it, but I don't have a lot of it. Do I spread it out thin or do I pile it up? And the best thing there is actually to pile it up, okay? You want to go, I would say, deep enough to where the bottom level is shaded fully and in contact with the soil. You don't want a thin layer all across everything exposed to the sun, because then it's just going to dry out, it's going to turn to dust, and it can blow away. And you're not really going to get any benefit for your soil. But if you start small and start deep, right up next to some of your plants, and work that across your system, slowly expanding it and refreshing it over time, then you're getting that central area that's charging up that area of the soil. And beneath the soil, your worms and your microbes are going to spread that out, and your plant roots will sense that the nutrients is over there, and they'll grow further in that direction. And so pile it up. And if you have plenty, spread out that pile. This has been Frenchy Powell, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Hit subscribe and like if you haven't already. Comment down below on what your favorite type of mulch is, and if you think there's anything I missed in this video. I will catch you guys around. This is Frenchy Powell with Permaculture Northeast. Love you guys.